Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path. We're coming to you from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper. We didn't quite talk about it. I thought it was implied that you were not to make that noise.
I don't know why I didn't catch on.
It just seemed like the right thing to do.
I mean, it did get plenty of... We're talking to Howard Dean, right? That got plenty of play when it happened.
You know that they had a poll. I don't know why this is coming to me right now, but they did a poll of like where teenagers spend most of their time online. Anybody want to guess?
Discord.
Discord is Ben's guess. Nathaniel.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. It's got to be the YouTube.
Yeah, it's definitely YouTube. Like hands down, like beating the pants off social media. Like 95%.
Yeah, I read something about that recently too. That they just don't care about social media. Maybe they're smart.
Anyway, that's where you'd see that video of Howard Dean going, yeah.
I saw an article about like if you ask a junior higher what he wants to be when he grows up, he's most likely to say a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Make
Actually,
the
I've had multiple kids tell me that they have full plans to be a YouTuber.
Remember when it used to be like I play professional football or something, and now they're like, nah, I just want to be on YouTube.
I know. Actually, I was convicted about that because I'm yelling at these kids like, look, that's not a legit job. But like no one told me that when I was, thought I was going to play on the Bulls or whatever when I was 6, white, and living in an apartment building. And so like no one crushed my dreams.
I got this.
Hey man, Steve Kerr and John Paxson eventually, they made it to the NBA.
Yeah,
that could be you.
I mean, if the whole world of basketball, if they say like 2% of people even have a chance at the pros, the white guy from the apartment building has got to be somewhere down the .006.
I mean, yeah, the YouTube's it though. I have some YouTube videos on fasting that's just gone crazy, right? And I thought to myself, I'm going to make another little thing like that, just a little series of short little videos. And today, this is how I do things. I slop things together and say, yeah. If I put some more time in it, it could have been really good, probably.
Yeah.
But I did like 6 little videos on short-term mission trips, how to plan a short-term mission trip, and I just kind of, I didn't like write a script or anything. I just kind of said, yeah, do this. And I cut it into 6 pieces. Then I looked at it and thought, this might be an embarrassment.
Huh. But then you went forward.
But it's still there. It's on there right now.
You hit publish.
Someone liked it within 5 minutes. Like, whoa, I'm a YouTube sensation. I got 4 views.
So there's so Caps for Steel still does awesome. It's got like 1.2 million views.
Yes.
And so I told some kids that I was teaching in class, and like, wow, over 1 million views. And I'm like, do not look at the other 1,000 videos we put out that have like 50 views or less.
Yeah.
Which is the rest of them.
Yeah.
The stuff with actual content.
Yeah, the
6.
stuff. Yep.
Stuff that's important to me. I'd like to define my life by nothing.
Yeah.
Caps for sale.
14 people watched the show last week.
But we got some good monkey sounds. Caps for sale.
All right, you're listening to Live from the Path. Here's what we have going on the show this evening. I'm going to propose something about marriages that I'm flirting with over the last number of weeks, and it has to do with what it means for the woman to be a helper. And I think my running theory is I think a lot of times the belief is that reference is some indication of a subservience between women and men. I think it is far more an indication of a man's frailty than it is an indication of than trying to speak something about a lady. And so, I'll unpack that.
I always thought it was kind of a laziness thing because Adam named the animals, and God's like, "You're not going to clean up all that poop. You're going to need help."
That's 515-517-0085. Women were created to shovel poop.
I'm just saying he needed
Dan
help.
Hudson.
I don't know why we're not tearing up the YouTube. We should be in
We're a
the
sensation.
negative attention column. We should be nailing it.
Okay.
I can't wait till they take that one out of context the next time you run for some kind of political office or win an award. Boy, Dan has just done such great work in Africa through missions, except for this one time.
Yeah.
I've actually thought that before. If I ever ran for something, you could scour these.
no
I've
way.
said so many things that taken out of context could be so terrible.
That ain't no kid. We'd have to torch this internet. I mean, we'd torch it.
Burn it to the ground.
Yeah. There's that. We don't even have an amount of time to scrub all this stuff up and not. Yeah. It's there. By the time, actually, we should make people sign something when they come in here. It's like, look, you're agreeing that you're not going to run for political office.
We had a couple of people running for political office in here.
Yeah. I don't. You never heard hide nor hair of Dave Funk.
His downfall began right here.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah, we tried. Nathaniel, I don't know if you ever listened to that show, but like we had a politician. It was like with the first 5 shows we did, and we invited Dave Funk to come in, and like. I don't remember what he was running for, but like we started asking him like which other politicians smell bad, like literally smell bad, and he would not say. And we kind of pressed the matter like it was the most important thing going on.
To know what he was thinking at that time, he was mad at somebody
I bet
for
it was
sure.
Expletive City.
Who scheduled
I bet
this?
he was so mad.
Yeah, look at these jack wagons. Oh, okay. Anyway, so I've got that going on. What else is there? Oh, I read something about the James Webb Telescope. And this was from mindmatters.ai, Mind Matters News. And the title of the article was James Webb Space Telescope shows Big Bang didn't happen? ? And then wait. And it was a super interesting article. And I think there's some scientific humility in it, which I think we can appreciate, which although... sometimes from a Christian perspective, I do feel like people put their heads in the sand as if the Lord cannot be king over the science, like science being a way of which humans are trying to categorize and find a tangible way to understand what God has done. And so we don't have to run from it, but like I think one of the things that we often run into is that like this lacks humility. It acts like we've got the whole thing figured out, and like people who acknowledge the existence of God at least have got one perspective correct, which is this whole thing feels like we probably don't have it all under control, like we've not figured out all the things quite yet. Like there's a built-in humility to believe even in God. And so anyway, I thought the article was kind of interesting in that regard, so maybe I'll share a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think we should run through that, and then 2 more topics of interest. One, we're going to run the room, and we want to know 2 like non-Christian nonfiction books that honestly did something for your faith.
Okay.
So like, just be thinking on it, like 2 nonfiction Christian books that you thought actually made a difference. Like if someone asked you, hey, I do my normal Bible study, and I feel like I'm praying, I'm nailing this thing, and like, but for some reason, I need a little jump start, a little something. What would you recommend? So be thinking about that.
Okay.
And number 2, I want to talk about getting into spiritual disciplines.
Yep.
Like what that looks like, like really practically what it looks like, right? Like, whether we're talking about prayer or reading your Bible or whatever, like if you wanted to start it, what you would expect and like some reasonable like aspirations for you to set so that you don't get so disappointed by day 3 that you're bailing. So like, let's try to look at this honestly. If you're going from 0 spiritual disciplines, what would we expect like the first week to look like for you, or the first 2 weeks? Like, so it's a sustained and a changed thing in your life, not just well, I tried it, it didn't go very well, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, I'm out.
It doesn't feel like a New Year's resolution.
That's correct.
Gone wrong. Okay.
I did Whole30 for 2 days, and man, that was hard. So I quit.
I'm done. So we got a lot on the docket today.
Okay, so let me fire up. We'll see. Maybe just something about this marriage thing. So what I've been trying to work through in my mind and through scripture and prayer and discussion, kind of with other folks, is some of what feels like the problems that seem to be universal for the most part in marriages between men and women. And a few different things have been running through. The first is that, like, I believe that God created men and women intentionally, and they have intentional patterns. Generally speaking, like, all these are generalities. There's always going to be some things where you're like, well, that doesn't match my wife, or that doesn't match me. Okay, congratulations, Ted. But like, I think it seems like men and women are designed in order to do and fulfill certain needs and obligations. So, as an example, I generally speaking find that men are able, if a husband and wife went on vacation and they left their 3 kids at home, a few days in, you could find most women going, I think about the kids a lot, and I wonder what they're doing, and I wouldn't mind going home to see them. And most men 3 days in would go, I'm sure they're fine, and thought about them a few times, but didn't feel super compelled to like run home. Most men are, it is easier for them to go do work out of town. It's not that they don't love their kids. It's not that they don't think and care about them, but like, it's easier for them to do it, it feels like, generally speaking, than women, where it feels like they've got all the things are tend to be on their mind all the time. Where fellas seem to be a little bit better at compartmentalizing. I'm not sure to what advantage, but
it's because they can only do one thing.
They're simpletons.
Yeah, like ladies will be running 45,000 things in their background or whatever, and dudes like, where's that screwdriver?
Yeah,
and the whole all of life is on hold until the screwdriver is found.
Yeah. That's the thing. Okay, so there's something about that, and so does that help a fella? And this is where these things get blurry. How you think about traditional gender roles and stuff, but like, to have a guy out in the field for 10, 12 hours a day or something, or like going to be day labor somewhere for weeks during the harvest time, and he can just be gone, and he's able to do it. He's able to do it because there's like a separation or a simpleness to his life. Whereas like ladies, if they're generally managing households, like they are responsible for all the stuff, and like a dude probably like would have a much harder time keeping all the things up. Guys are more likely to go, we just can't get to all the things, and so we're not gonna do the other 10.
Yeah, we'll cut some stuff.
Whatever the consequences may be, it ain't gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, generalities, but interestingly, both of those, although can be an advantage, in certain ways, they create risks. Right? They create a risk that, like, how many times? I mean, we hear it a lot in our society. You get an absentee father. The ability to kind of simplify and separate so that you can be away to go accomplish something could be a strength for a man. It is also his greatest weakness. How many men can just walk away? They do, and it's unfathomable to me. But there's dads who just go, you know what? I'm gonna leave now. And they don't call, and they don't write, and they don't work and send money. They're just gone. And like, it's unconscionable to me, but like, what could be an advantage to serve his family can also be a means of which he can leave his family. I think, for ladies, like all of these things that they're trying to balance and manage can be something that otherwise serves their family, but it also can bog them down so much that they actually they can't move. It's too much. There's too much happening at all the time, and they cannot sort it out. And so, if you think about it, though, the marriage of a man and woman together, like, creates the ability to balance out those strengths that can present themselves as weaknesses. So, like, when the dude just gets too hyper focused, the lady goes, "Did you think about this? Your kids are looking for you, and we got to fix the barn this week, and you got to blah blah blah." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got real hyper focused on that screwdriver." Yeah. Right? And like, it
turns out she took it.
That's right.
Sneaky.
And then I don't, and then for ladies, like, often you need the guy who goes, "I hear all that stuff you're saying. No, it's too much. We're backing off of it. You're gonna, but we got to do. Nope. I'm gonna help. I'm here to help, to make a quick decision, and we're gonna cut these 5 things. And if it's just for today, it's just for today. It's not gonna be the end of the world. But like, it's a leveling out. And so the reason that got me to thinking about the way that the Bible talks about the creation of men and women, and that the man needs a helpmeet, right? A helper. similar to a word that, frankly, that God uses to describe God. And the aspect of which both of those things are true, it doesn't say, well, man is the dominator, the lady needs to come be his assistant. No, the lady exists in her strength to meet the man in his weakness. Like the notion of her being a helper to a man is an indication of his frailty in those areas, not her weakness. And I don't know that it's not that I don't know most I don't feel like most of the fellas I know are getting this wrong, but like it was something that I was thinking about, because what it then does is it starts to reframe how you work through your marriage. You are a we. Oftentimes conversations become about I versus I. This person is not acting this way. Like, hey, my husband just can't, he seems to focus on one thing, or he just sits down. And now how can he sit down? There's a million things going on because you have a million things on your head. And you saw this lump of a man just sit on the couch and you're like, he's ignoring a million things. In his mind, he's not ignoring anything. He just sat down and he didn't think about the other things you were doing. What you feel is his detriment exists for you as a wife to help him find balance. And similarly, fellas, like where your wife is feeling kind of bogged down and you're like, boy, you just, I don't know why you do this to yourself. And like, you're so stressed out all the time. Like, you are here to help her find balance. You together are the we that God created and intended you to be. And so I want you to think kindly about your spouses as they help you be the best you, so that you function as the best we. So all that is a rub that I need you to think differently about, say, some of the arguments that you're having. Is this person actually helping me to be a better us, as opposed and embracing the fact that, like, hey, I'm here to help. It's not my gig. Like, I grant that I do this naturally better. And frankly, my wife and I largely fall along these lines. Like, she will have all the things on the mind all the time and trying to do all these things. And every once in a while, I gotta go, hey, it's gonna be fine tonight. We're gonna drop that. In fact, we're dropping for a few days. Oh, yes, but I have all the things to do. I'm like, we're gonna drop it. And like, I often need her to go, hey, did you forget about this thing and this thing? And like, yes, I did. Yeah. Did not even think about it.
One of them kids I didn't even know existed.
Right. Okay, I'm not sure. I haven't forgotten.
I'll go pick them up though.
What's the name?
So,
get in, you.
I guess, like, a lot of times, I think we run the risk of then viewing our partners, let's go with supposed deficiencies, as if they're failing you as a spouse. But like, I think God created men and women with these needs for each other, with an exposed frailty that frankly you would not agree to anywhere else. Like, my wife has a level of influence in my life that nobody else gets. She has the ability to call me up or bring me down with words of which if another fella just came up and said, hey, I think you actually really suck this week, I would go, oh, screw you, dude. I'm not taking that in. I don't have to. But like, there's a frailty in me that my wife has the most power over to use. And similarly, heading the other direction, men with your spouses. And so I don't know. It's an ask, I think, to reframe how you think about your marital discussions. Anytime you think this person is failing me, like, I want you to start with, I'm here to help them be the best of themselves, so that the we that we were joined to be through the Holy Spirit can be at its best. And so sometimes it's not, hey, you stink at this. It's going, oh yeah, I'm made for this, to come help that man be better at this thing, or so that the we are handling this better, and vice versa. And so if we can reframe it that way, it's not everything. Sometimes you're all just going to stink individually and you got to hash it out. But like, I just wonder how many marital conversations are being had where it's like an eye for an eye as opposed to a we fighting for a we.
I'd say a lot.
Yeah. I would say, personally, I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of things where I'm not I'm evaluating my happiness or interaction or satisfaction with my wife, as opposed to saying, like, if I see something in her that is a shortcoming, am I going to fill in the gap so that the we stays strong, or am I upset at her about the gap? And am I trying to help her be her best, or am I making sure that the person who has the most exposure to her to bring her up or call her down uses that to do what? And I think that's a risk. And I get it. You're gonna feel like you're gonna get burned on that. Like, hey man, I wouldn't fill the gap, and that guy's still sitting on his butt. Oh yeah, maybe. It's not like I'm not saying you don't have legitimate things to work to. I'm just thinking about how we posture thinking about marital relationships and those types of discussions, and trying not to be personally offended, and saying, look, I'm made for that. I want this. I want that frailty. I need it for me, and I want to charge in when at her frailest I'm at my best.
Nathaniel, why would you say that you're so bad at this?
Yeah.
What's the number one driver?
Well, I don't know. I was talking with my wife the other day.
I said, "Look here, woman."
I said, "Listen here, things are gonna change." No, so I asked her. I says to her, "Do you feel?" Because there's something Ben said at church. He said, "Do you be at your best when your spouse is at your worst, or at their worst?" I guess. I said, "Do you feel like I am at my best when you are at your worst?" And she said, "Sometimes."
A glowing recommendation.
Yeah. And I said, so she asked me the same thing back, and we had a discussion about it. And then it occurred to me that we don't really have that many marital spats at all, and mostly due to my inability to have a strong opinion about anything.
That's what's causing there's little conflict because you don't have a strong opinion.
Yeah, because I don't care.
Yeah,
and I know that, and even things that she wants to do, like, hey, let's go do this thing, blah blah blah. I don't want to, but the easiest road for me is to just go do it.
You're a man of convenience.
Yes.
You're like, it seems like less hassle just to agree to this thing.
Exactly.
I do believe sometimes that is true, but do you feel like, are you able to say yes to that with an attitude that otherwise she can appreciate, like he's here for it, not just I drug him along, but he wants to be here?
No.
Okay. So there you have a rub point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rock's been peeled away, and there I am scurrying in the dark.
I'm just doing things. I wouldn't even say begrudgingly. Just like, okay, this is going to be the easiest, so I might as well.
Okay, I think that's a rub, because I think
that's a classic dude thing to do, though.
It is a classic dude thing to do, and I think it puts. Here's the thing: is like no fella wants to feel like his wife is treating him like a child. But if you're going to go, I'm going to go because you said I could, you wanted me to go, and you kind of like trudging along where she feels like she's having to drag you, you've put her in the position to treat you like a child.
Yeah, this is where the dudes usually fall apart here, because they're like, I don't want to go to the stupid whatever, blah, 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 petting zoo. Except for your woman has been thinking about this, right? And she's like, the kids really want to go. We've been talking about it all week. And then you go, I don't want to go to this petting zoo. But like you have no alternative plans to enrich the children or to take them out, right? Like you have not been thinking about it at all, except for when someone said, we're going to go to the petting zoo. And you're like, God, I don't want to go to the petting zoo. But like you brought zero input to the table until something was, it's like you're the guy that it's the classic Hamilton phrase is like, they don't have any good ideas. They just hate mine, right? Yeah. That's a dude. A dude will wait until something comes across his path and goes, I don't like that. Well, what did you think about it beforehand? I didn't at all, but I know what I see right now. I don't like it. I'm going to go sit down and think about this for a minute. Where's that screwdriver? Yeah. Here's the thing. It's like some of this stuff is almost comedic because of how true it is, right? Like stereotypically, like people are like, dudes are different. They got different personalities. Kind of, you know what I'm saying? I bet I could string about 98% of them all together with one thread. And and these are good, solid dudes. I'm not talking about loafers, people leaving their family, acting terrible. I'm talking about dudes I know that love Jesus, and they're good, solid guys, and they have a level of buffoonery in them.
Yep.
Just depends how the sun's shining. But that level of buffoonery is the same. We've talked about this before, right? That same amount of buffoonery is what puts a guy in a lab for 3 days straight, stinking BO, and he discovers an element that no one else would figure out.
Yeah.
Or the guy that ends up fixing your car that was going to cost $4,500, and he's out there tinkering at it for 3 days because he got a $30 part but can't get it in. But he'll be over there 3 days until he gets it figured out.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things that I think we know this kind of, but then we just in moments we miss it, or or sometimes broad posturing, like we just miss the fact that like, can I appreciate how this person is formed and the role that they serve in the strength of our we, and then not get so kind of irritated when it isn't playing out. However, recognizing that so Nathaniel's example, unfortunately, is a really good one. Most fellas do this. We're like especially with good, strong ladies who generally make wise decisions. Like it's in your best interest to defer. She's probably thought about it more. She's probably chosen a path that is a little bit more cost effective and probably healthier. Or is good. Like she's just put time into it. But it's not okay to put her in the position where she feels like she's your mom. Like you need to go into those situations and be confident in it. If you're going to say yes, then say yes with confidence. Yeah. Yes, I'm doing it because you want to do it. It was a great idea.
Zoo.
I want to do it. I love zoos.
I'm going to stop by and pick up some quarters on the way home so we can ring that machine for the goats.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not it does not behoove a man to go along with what his wife's trying to get him to do. You say yes, and you say yes boldly. If it's a no, if you don't want to go, and it's not the you feel like it's not the
decent reason why,
right? Then say no and say it with confidence, not like an arrogant jerk. Was like, you know what? I don't really want to do that because you're a grown man. You don't have to act. Here's the thing: is this is where I caution you is that to a man, every guy that I know who loves Jesus is very well aware of his buffoonery. It's not like he doesn't know, and every one of them feels super lucky to have found the lady that he has who otherwise tolerates this buffoonery. But the risk that you run is that you can't be the proper encourager to your wife if your only reaction is, this must be my buffoonery. Because it puts your wife in the position, the very thing that you don't want, which it means that now she's babysitting you because you're a complete buffoon. You're not a complete buffoon. Sometimes, but you wisely defer to your wife when you know it's smart to do so. Great. Run that in confidence. Lord put her in your life and in your family's life to go do those types of things. But but if you're going to go do something because your wife says, hey, we should go do this, go, heck yeah, we should. I am in. Do it with the right attitude. You didn't get bullied into it. You said yes because it was right. You let this lady have this level of influence in your life because she should. Do that with confidence, and then aid and support and encourage and love and cause your wife to flourish with confidence, because you should be. You should be doing that. And I struggle with that. I don't sometimes I really hate what I look like the way that my wife describes me. It's embarrassing to me. Yeah. She talking and then I often take it out on her. I can't believe you made me feel this way. I'm like, well, she's half right.
I can't believe you acted that way.
Right.
You made me paint a portrait of you. You put me in a corner here.
Right. So anyway, I just whatever. There's a million things to unpack from this type of thing, but the start is I think you should appreciate what you guys what your marriage brings. The two of you bring together for the we and fight for the we. Stop, be honest and careful that you're not just pressing on one or the other to get your own kind of personal selfish way. It's okay to have group discussions about things that impact fellas, if you're a guy who is thinking about some overtime, don't just take it and go, well, I got to do the overtime because I got to make the bills. No, you discuss that with your wife. You say, hey man, the impact of here's why I'm thinking about this. It's the opportunity we have. What do we think about how I spend my time away from our house? What do we think? And sometimes you're going to go, I know you think it's too much for me, but I want to do it to sacrifice for my family. That's all right. But it's still a we conversation, not just I did this and I hope she appreciates it. That sucks. Don't do that. Don't do that. Have we conversations and get the most out of the relationship that God has brought you together to be in.
Yeah. This would have been a good Pope style advice, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking before, the Pope seems too lofty, although he's a real dicey character. You just never know what he's going to say nowadays. Although maybe that could be us.
You were singing his praises when he got smoked in.
I felt real good about him. Compared to the other dude, it felt like he was more not allowing the previous actions to kind of dictate how he embraced the world. And actually, I will say this is generally true about theologies and people who bend more liberal is that it tends to feel at least like you're showing more attention and focus and love to people. But there is a boundary to it where you start to cause them harm. And I don't know. There's been some of the stuff coming out of the old potpourri that feels like you might have snuggled that line, dated it for a while, and then also dated its cousin. And yeah, it's a risk.
Sounds like it went south real fast.
It's a risk there, Pope Frank.
Okay. Speaking of things that would help enrich your life, like treating your lady better and not being a buffoon. I know there's a bunch of avid readers in the room, like not me or Nathaniel. But Ben and Dan, I think, turned a couple pages. And I was thinking today, I was thinking about my kids, actually. Like, if I was going to hand them a book that I thought really made a difference in the way that I follow Jesus or really spoke to me in a certain way, and I was going to recommend it to my kids, which ones would I recommend? And I've read quite a few, I would say, over the years. And then I thought, it'd be really interesting to see, like, if you feel like you're at a point where you need a little bit of a shove. Every once in a while, you'll just read a good book about someone else's interaction with Jesus, and you're like, yeah, okay, I was looking at this different. Now we're time to roll.
Yep.
So if we had to go around the room, I want you to name one. Like, what would be your number one pick to recommend to somebody that's said, look, I want to see my faith differently, or I want to engage with Jesus on a deeper level. And so, what book would you recommend? We'll start with Dan. Dan.
Yeah, the sad thing about this is I have it all on my iPad, which I left at home after reviewing it, thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to look back at some of the books I've read.
Dan did homework and then left it in the trunk of the car.
You're saying,
and then the dog ate it.
This book impacted your life so much that it is not in your memory banks on what it is?
That's that is part of the downfall of my personality. I am so terrible on details. I don't remember. I remember about 3 authors' names in my life that I've read, and some of the titles I remember, and I remember, it's this book about stuff, but I'll remember the content pretty well.
Yeah.
But some of the important stuff like that, anyway, yeah. So because I've read, and another thing, I do not read nearly as much as Ben. I'll read bits and pieces. I rarely read like a whole book.
I was going to say that when Mike said Dan has been read a page or two. I thought that is Dan. Yeah. He does read a page or two.
Yeah, or a chapter or so, 2, in and maybe out. 3.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I'll go like, that bores me, and I'll go on or something, and then I'll lose interest. I'll try to start another one. I have like 6 books I'm kind of half looking at right now, but I can't tell you a single title. Usually there's something to do with discipleship, with living out your faith. But I honestly can't even tell you.
So you're probably off the hook for book number 2 then as well. Okay, I think that's fair.
If I only had my wife here to compliment me and tell me, here's what you're reading, Dan. You left it on the counter.
Okay, let's go for the dead ringer, and then we'll go to the iffy side of the room. Ben.
Okay, yeah. So I would say this. I'll tell you the first book that came to mind. And the first book that came to mind was a book called No More Dragons by Jim Bergen. And
hold on, Dan nodded his head in agreement.
Have you read that one, Dan?
It sounded familiar, maybe.
So
I've heard things about it.
Jim Bergen is a pastor at a church called Flatirons in Colorado, and I don't even remember how I got a hold of this book or why I picked it up. But the thing that stuck out with me on this one and that made me energetic, it was the concept of the book is like kind of recognizing, I don't know, dragons in your life, and like one of the main metaphors comes from one of the Chronicles of Narnia books where Eustace, he's like a real whiny, pain in the nose type of kid, from I think this is from the Prince Caspian one, and he ends up getting turned into a dragon. And then Aslan, the Jesus type of character, shows up and and he turns into a dragon because he goes to grab the dragon's gold on this island, searching for the Lord Roop, and so it's kind of a punishment for his greediness and stuff. And so anyway, he ends up having an interaction with Aslan, and he says, "I can turn you back into a human." But the way that he does it is he reaches out the claws and just starts scratching away. As a lion, the scales off this kid, And so he stops becoming the dragon that he had become and gets returned back to who he was created to be. And it's intended to be a picture of kind of baptism type of thought, where like you get there's a rescue there, and it's not that it's not painful to kind of give up everything you've become, but like if you let Jesus kind of come in and tear all the sinews back, you can be restored to what he created you to be. So like that's the guts of the book, and I thought it was a cool image, and I'd read the Prince Caspian book, and so that was cool. But like the reason it stuck with me is like there's as a pastor, he starts kind of talking through some situations that like now you'd be like, well, yeah, of course, but this was like 10 years ago, and he's like, he had like a transgender person show up to the church, and like one of his chapters was like, what do you even do with that? And like it felt like at the time it felt like such a contentious thing where you're like, I wouldn't have any idea how to handle this with, like, I feel like I would handle it wrong, either way too much one way or the other. And like he was talking about how this person was like taking a whiz next to him in the bathroom, and like part of that chapter is he goes he met this fella, and he said, because he wanted to come to the men's retreat, and he met with the lady dude whatever, and he goes, I don't know. I want you to know Jesus. But some of the elements of this thing, I'm not quite sure how to sort out. I think you can come, but we're gonna have to keep talking about it. And like there was such an honesty in a guy not having to have all the answers to something, that there was a combination of like I know I want to show people and introduce them to Jesus, but I know there's something else here that like needs to be dealt with. And so like just the boldness of an I don't know, but we're going to figure this out because Jesus loves this person. And there were a number of different things in the book that were kind of like that. And so anyway, that one stood out to me because it where other places in my life where I've listened to a teaching or read a book, it emboldened me with some level of confidence. This one emboldened me with the belief that like you probably aren't going to know all the answers here. You're not going to know how to act in every situation, but just know what God says is true, and walk forward, and you'll get that figured out. And so I don't know that one, No More Dragons, Jim Bergen. That one was a good turning. It was a good elevation point for me. I shared it with a number of folks. It's well written. It's easy to read, and I like that one.
Nathaniel,
The Life You Always Wanted by John Ortberg, and it's a book. It's John Ortberg's book about like daily life, growing closer to Christ through spiritual disciplines.
Yeah. How long ago did you read that one?
I read it. I had to read it in college for a class, and then I reread it probably 4 years ago. And then for some reason in college it just didn't strike me. And I saw it laying on the bookshelf, and I was like, oh, I don't even remember what this book is about. Let's pick it up again. And I reread it, and it jacked me up. I was like, man, this is awesome. I'm going to start saying the Lord's Prayer every day. And I was texting out quotes to all my friends. I was like, hey, check this out. The possibility of change is the essence of hope.
Yeah.
I was texting that, and one dude even like went out and wood burned it. That
no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So yours, what was the name of yours?
The Life You Always Wanted, which is kind of a cheesy title, but
yeah,
whatever, Berg.
Okay, The Life You Always Wanted. Ben, yours was The Dragon by
No More Dragons by Jim Bergen.
No More Dragons by Jim Bergen. I had a couple. One of them's the standout, the number one for me, and that's Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I love that book. I read it once.
I've actually read that one.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read it a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago. And then like at a certain point in my life when things were going really, really rough, I picked it back up, and like, boy, it just slapped me 6 ways from Sunday on all kinds of things, and the power of prayer and trusting the Holy Spirit with things and letting God do. And the thing that I remember taking away from it was he was talking about, they were trying to grow their church community or whatever in a pretty rough neighborhood, and some dude come out of nowhere and just decided he was going to talk that day, and he let him do it. And the guy said, like, you can't measure your church by the size of your Sunday attendance. you want to know what the health of your church is, you look at the attendance at your Tuesday prayer meeting, and that's how you know how your church is doing. Because you can win people over with worship, you can win people over with a fancy speaker, but you want to know how people in Jesus are doing. You should tell me how many people are showing up to pray on Tuesday, and like everything that God built through those folks was done solely through prayer.
Yeah,
and like it got me real fired up, and it's probably about time to read it again, honestly.
But some of my favorite books have been books on prayer and just different flavors. You know, like the Red Moon Rising book. That's all about the 24/7 prayer movement.
Yeah.
And man, I read that like quickly. You know, if I like it, I get into it. I'll sit there and I can't stop. You know, because it was just so cool, the story of the history going back, you know, hundreds of years, as well as the modern era 24/7 movement. And we're still having 24/7 prayer rooms.
Yep.
Because of that, so it impacted me greatly to the point that we do it a lot.
Yep.
Do you think those prayer books, because like that Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire's prayer book?
Yeah.
And like, I was just thinking while you were saying that, why those books are such a draw to me, and like I think it's because it gives me hope that there are people that are doing this.
Yeah.
Right. Like if there's one thing across my entire relationship with God that I've always struggled with, it's consistent prayer that felt like I was talking to my dad, right?
Yeah.
That it wasn't just a like, you know, I'm doing it because I have to do it. Like, I mean, I think everybody has those times when, like, you know God's listening, you're communing, everything's cool, right? But like every day for longer than 4 minutes or whatever, you know, then you're like, okay, you know, and then like you read what what the Holy Spirit has done when people like allow themselves to be part of that, and like just pray and pray well and pray often and pray like you're having a conversation with your Father, and not that you're just trying to, you know, check a list or whatever. And like, so those books always give me hope that like, see, it can be done. So what are you doing?
Right. I think I like them because they're not like selling something.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the latest gimmick. It's not like, hey, here's how we, you know, reached X number of people, and now you can do it too if you just do what we did. Because I tend to read a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I read Bob Russell's book a year or two ago. I can't remember. It was 5 or 6 things he'd do again, and 5 or 6 things he wouldn't do. And I loved the book. It was fascinating. It was cool. But I don't know, like it shook me or anything. It was just like, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
you know, good solid stuff. I wish other people would read this. You know, I think that. But the prayer ones, it usually adds something that changes me in some way, or enhances my prayer life. So I'm with you on that for sure.
Ben, do you have a second? You can't explain it for the same length of time.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I have it. Yes, I got quite a few. So Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire would have been one I would have reached for. There was a book about, it's called, actually two kind of in the same area. One is called Blood Brothers by a guy named Elias Shakur, and he's a Palestinian who like looking for peace between Israel and fighting for peace between Israel and Palestine, and the reason that one was influential to me when it comes to my Christian faith, and this couples with another book, and I'm missing some of the title, but it's like something Don't Shoot, and that was about a guy who was a police officer no, it wasn't a police officer, he was like an academic, but he was trying to solve crime. It was a crime problem, and he's like analyzing crime, and it ended up being a question of relationships between communities and police officers. And the theme between both of those books was people often misunderstand each other. Like we're too shallow in how we think about each other. Like between the police and the local communities, like communities were afraid that the police didn't have any respect for them, and that they were just trying to dominate them. And so they were afraid of them, and they had the wrong impression. Like most of the police were like, dude, we just want to help. And like most of the community members were like, you don't look like you're trying to help, because they had kind of a misunderstanding of what everyone was trying to do. And same thing with like the background of this Palestinian dude, is that like, I mean, in America, Palestinian's kind of a rough word. You have built-in assumptions that these are terrorists, as an example. And like this guy, like his family's background was they owned land, and then like when borders got redrawn because of skirmishes, these guys were like way out in their farming communities. They didn't have anything to do with any of this stuff. And like borders move, families get murdered, kicked out, stuff burned, and now what do you do? And like that's happened a lot in different places. And so like what seems like, oh, look at these people are just angry. Well, I mean, they've been angry for 50 years because you killed their grandpa and stole their land. And like that, what's not universal for all Israelis, and not all Palestinians are innocent. But like the point of the reason I happen to read both of those within a short amount of time. I'm not quite sure how I got a hold of them, but like from my faith perspective, I started to become way more patient and gracious with people. Because it reminded me or forced me to consider that like people are always more complicated than what things look like. Earthly situations tend to be more complicated because people are involved, and so I became I don't know if I was super judgmental before, but like my patience tripled when it comes to like I'm going to continue to ask questions and try to understand a situation before I go bulldozing in there. With righteousness, because like truth can speak, but there's a context of which it's being heard, and so both of those books actually were pretty helpful to me. If the first one was how I think about God, and actually I guess both of those are dealing with people and with confidence.
Yeah,
that was shorter.
I would have thought you would have said, what is it? Looking for Allah, Finding Jesus.
Ooh,
you mentioned that book quite a bit.
Oh man, so and actually that one was within a few months, like earlier than those two. And same thing. That was a reminder. That I love that book. Not only because it's like super well done, and that guy's story is awesome. His journey from becoming a Muslim and questioning and felt like Jesus was just after him. But like, again, the belief that God is still working places that you're like, I don't know. Like how many times you get the questions like, well, isn't this all the same? Or like, how can you think your religion is better than another person's religion? And like the Muslim conversions mold both of those as great reminders that God has not given up, and he's still actively hunting down folks who are seeking him, even in places where like it feels like the belief structure is too far gone. He still wants the worshiper of Baal. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's a great one. It's a great example.
Nathaniel, book 2, do you have one?
It's not nonfiction, but I'm gonna go with the Screw Tape Letters.
Oh yeah, Screw Tape Letters, solid. Here's the thing about reading. That dude's name?
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. So I've read 3 books by C.S. Lewis, and like, I feel like I've had to explain this before, but like, he sucks me in with everything he says. Everything. It doesn't matter if it's actually the right thing to say or not. He'll be like a blah 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 blah. I'm like, that's right on, and he'll be like, if you think that, here's why you're a dummy. I'm like, oh no.
It's like Paul in Romans.
Yes,
he's
exactly
giving you the
right.
Romans.
Yeah, he's giving me the Romans, and like, but I love Screw Tape Letters. In fact, I think I just read that in the last couple of years. Got all the way through it, and I thought, boy, this Screw Tape's got me pegged.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Actually, the Space Trilogy. So like Narnia is great, but the Space he wrote 3 books called the Space Trilogy, and it starts to interact with the thought of like you have got a fallen humanity on Earth, but like what is the interaction with God on like other planets? And like there's a part in then like book 2 where you're like, heck yeah, like because you can see, like you kind of start to pick together like what it's pointing at, and what does it look like for those things to be different? Like did the fallen humanity on Earth, does that mean did all other creatures have to fall? If there were Martians, what are they like? How do they interact with a god? What is their concept of a god? And like there's a few parts of that where just whiz bang, it just washes over you. There's a part in creation. There's a creation I want to say in book like 5 of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I almost wept. This description of like singing creation into being. That frankly is much more closer to like the language that Genesis uses. We're just so academic about it, we just don't catch it right. But some of that stuff is just beautiful, and it tears down. It opens us up to being able to see Scripture with the depth that I think Scripture exists, by allowing to see it through a fictionalized account that extends that. Those are good. My number 2 is a tie between a couple, and they're completely polar opposites. One is a Bob Goff book that I don't remember the name of it. Love Does?
What's that?
Love Does?
Probably Love Does. Well, he's just a goofball, and he's out there just doing like he's just has a level of freedom due to his love and trust in who God is and what God created him to do. And like I don't know, it should give you a lot of confidence. Like that guy walks around as the son of the king, right? Like when he gets up in the morning and leaves his door, he's not. I mean, he doesn't make any huge theological points. He's not arguing like the finer points of our faith. He just walks out and then like lets God decide what he's going to do for the day, and he's just overly ridiculously generous about it, and he's just out there doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so like there's a lot of freedom in that. And when I was reading it, I'm like, why can't I walk out as the prince? Why can't I walk out as the son of the king? Instead, I'm like half worried that I'm screwing it up, or whatever. I didn't hear from him, or maybe I did great and he didn't notice, or whatever. Like, and this dude's just out roaming as Prince Bob Goff, as the son of the king. And so, like, I like it. It's a good feel good thing. You need to pick me up, I would do that.
Yeah.
But the tie for that is like I can't remember the name of I just bought it recently, but it's a book of modern liturgies, and like it's I wish I could remember the name of it. But like it's like it's every moment holy.
Yeah,
is what it's called.
Yeah,
and like the guy writes liturgies for like going on vacation or folding the laundry or changing diapers or what I'm saying. Like he's got or for loss of a pet for the and like it's like modern liturgies for the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, the end of the day, and like they're just awesome. They're just awesome. Especially if you feel like you struggle, like you're tired of hearing your own words when you pray. You're like, God, I have so much to say. My heart has a ton to say, but my brain is like, right,
says the same stuff.
Yeah, your brain's a real nose picker, and you're like, my heart means more than this, but I'm picking my own brain here.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would really recommend that book. It's called Every Moment Holy, and it's full liturgies, and like it covers, a ton of cool situations in your life, just even rando stuff, like a liturgy for people about to act in a play, like and then like how to turn it to God and blah, blah. Like they're really good. So that's what I would do. Okay, any final book recommendations before we roll off of this?
Okay, I almost kind of hate to say this because it's like super old book, but if I look back over the years, I probably used this book more than any other book in my library. And it's because it deals with relationships, the 5 love languages.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of looking back at books I'd purchased in the last couple of years, and I bought it again in the last couple of years. I must have gave it to somebody. I don't remember.
Yep.
But it's so freaking practical, and there's every new generation comes up that like needs to learn this, and I probably think some of those principles through at least once a week, I bet.
Yeah.
Whether it be in my own relationship or as I'm talking to someone like, well, hey, are they receiving what you're doing here? Do they get? You're trying to say you love this person. Do they get it?
Right. Yep.
You're speaking your own language, and so I think it's pretty practical and powerful little book there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed.
That's a good one. I got 2 more.
No.
Yeah. Let me get.
You can list the titles, but you can't explain them, Ben.
Okay. Even just like a minute. Okay. So, The Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark. It's a great book to provide it's emboldening context on how the early church saw themselves, and the point of the book is to try to say, like, how did Christianity go from 11 dudes following a dead leader to the predominant religion over 3 centuries? And it's service. It's service. It's like living. It's rescuing babies. It's treating women differently than the rest of the world treated them. Like was that the minute?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Got it. Do I get another minute for the other one?
If you hustle.
Okay. The other one was The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosaria Butterfield. She was like a queer literature professor and was in a lesbian relationship. She ends up interviewing this pastor to debunk all the stuff and make him look like a fool. Ends up meets Jesus and like has to split from her relationship, marries a pastor, and now like this is her instruction on living your lives with hospitality focused to your communities around you. And it's a really, she's got another one like The Confessions of an Unlikely Convert that's also good. That was her first book, but this one was great. I think it's Rosaria
yeah,
Butterfield.
I feel like I've heard of this gal.
Isn't she the one like the kept inviting her over for supper?
Yes.
Like forever?
Yep.
And then one day like, yeah.
Yeah, and then the stuff turned. And again, like there's a theme to some of these books where it's like it's just being reminded that all the situations where you're like, I have no idea. God's like, oh, we'll figure it out. Did I make that one? I'm done. Check. Stop.
No, you're gonna take it.
No, I know. I got. It's all this.
Look what happened. Look what you made me do. Why do you make me live like this? You're like a one-man bullhorn. Okay, we're gonna post the recommended reading.
Yeah,
we'll put it somewhere. I don't know where to put it, but we'll put it somewhere on the social deets.
Yeah,
just for stuff to look at.
I'll get it out, but you guys have to tell me. You have to give me like a quick write-up on like why for each title. You need to tell me why you recommend it.
Man, that don't sound like something I'm going
to do. You got to do it.
No, I feel like my recommendation is enough.
Well, then why you got to put a list out there? No one's going to have to come back. Nobody listens to the program.
Right. All right, we won't do that then.
Okay.
No list.
All right, bail on it.
You're going to have to listen.
Seems good.
Okay. Last thing. The space article.
But you want to talk about starting disciplines?
Oh yeah, we better.
Let's save the space article.
All right, we'll save space article.
Okay.
We're going to talk about. So actually, that falls in line a little bit with some of that prayer stuff that Dan and I were just talking about. But I was thinking about it today. Like every time that I've tried to start a spiritual discipline, what's the spiritual disciplines? Like, is there a list?
Yeah, prayer, fasting, solitude, quiet. Yeah. There's all. Yeah. Foster has written quite a bit on that.
Is it man contrived, or like is there a Bible verse that we would go to and say these are spiritual disciplines?
There's not really no.
No, it's just a good practice thing by historical churches the historical church that says, look, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, like so we'll call it prayer and fasting and reading scripture and.
Yep.
Meditation. Okay. Yeah, all that.
Yeah, meditation. Okay. So let's say that you wanted to start one, right? Like
yep.
I don't know how many times that I've ran into people that like, look, I just feel like me and God are disconnected, and my first question is like, how's your prayer life doing? Well, how's your Bible reading going? Right? Like all the things that would show that would be outward appearances or even inward functions of your walk with Christ they're not there. Right? And so, like, your heart says, yes, I want to follow Jesus, and the practice of your life is not doing anything to allow the Holy Spirit to move or interact in your life.
Yep.
You're basically saying, I love you, Jesus, but the door is shut. I got this handled in here.
There's nothing tilling the soil.
That's right. There's no. It's like flat and arid in there. So let's say that you wanted to start one. Now, I've been guilty of this. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start praying every day. And then I think to myself, I got this handled. And then I'll be hot dog. I get up at 5:30 in the morning. And I'm so tired, I'm like falling asleep while I'm praying. And I can't think of a whole lot to pray about. Like I don't know, I get a couple 5 minutes in, which felt like 20. And I'm like, well, I guess that's good. I'll go read my Bible. I'm already up. This will be great. I'll take care of the Bible reading too. And then like I'll find a book of the Bible, and probably usually in the New Testament, and I'll read a couple 3 chapters. And I'm like, okay. Well, I did that. It kind of came back as nothing. Like I physically read it, but nothing really changed in me. I guess we'll try it again tomorrow. And then about 3-4 days in, I'm out. I'm done. It didn't do anything. I didn't feel it, right?
Yep.
So what would you guys recommend? Let's go with prayer first. Let's just take this is week of prayer. Let's say that we wanted to start a spiritual discipline of praying. And I'm not saying necessarily it's got to be 5:30 in the morning at the holy butt crack of dawn.
Yep.
Right? But if you wanted to start a spiritual discipline of praying, what's one, a good way to get it started? 2, something that you could expect, that you should expect to, so that you're aware of it, so that it's not a hurdle for you, like as it goes on.
Let me try to answer by asking you a question.
Okay.
If you decided tonight that you wanted to go try out for the Chicago Cubs, like that's your goal, you want to become a professional baseball player.
Yes.
Okay. What would you feel like you got to do tomorrow?
I'd have to kneecap the first baseman and create an opening.
Okay. 1, hinder someone else that you might succeed.
Hey, you asked me. And I'm saying.
I don't know that you're first in line. Like, you kneecap the first baseman, they go, I wonder what Mike Foust from Pleasantville's doing.
Okay, I got to kneecap a couple.
It's a long
first baseman.
I'm going to need a team of larceny.
It's a lot of Tanya Harding to try to get on first.
I'm going to have to start training, Ben.
Okay, so like what, though?
How far off from the bigs am I?
I'm talking you current state. This is not a hypothetical. This is you.
Oh, well.
Tomorrow, you knocking them out of the park?
No, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, are you ready? Can you know how to cut the bat?
No. I'm gonna have to hit the iron and get some skills, and probably even start single A ball.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're gonna have to start doing rudimentary things, right? Because you could go up there and start chucking the bat around, and you're gonna be frustrated because you're not very good. Two, like what else? What else about practicing it needs to be true for you to keep up with it?
I got to keep doing it.
Okay, so one, you gotta sustain it. You gotta figure out a way to sustain it. But like, what things help you sustain it?
Habit loop.
What do you say?
Habit loop.
Have a loop?
Habit loop.
Are you saying habit loop?
Loop, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Habit loop.
What does that mean?
It's like it's from another book. It's the Power Habit, where he talks about where there's a routine and a reward and a cue. Is that right, Dan? You've read that book?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, where you
I was going to mention that book, and I didn't, because I'd forget.
I don't make a habit of reading it.
The way they get into any habit is having a cue to do the habit, and then you perform the habit, and then after the habit is done, there's some sort of reward for you having done this habit.
What's the reward? Like a piece of chocolate? Soda?
Sure, it could be anything.
Whatever makes you happy.
Hey man, do you think that's right? Well, hold on. Let me finish out the thing. We're gonna come back to this, to whether I should read my Bible for my own personal chocolate stash. The reason the example came to mind is that, like, if I wanted to play professional ball tomorrow, I'm gonna have to start training. I'm gonna have to get up and start practicing. I don't know how to do any of these things, and I'm gonna have to recognize that, like, for weeks, I am not at an A caliber level. It's gonna take some time. I'm going to have to be able to see progress in some way or another, to like, personally, just some way to understand that, like, I'm progressing. Two, sometimes I don't even know the confines of what it looks like to do a good job, and so I'm going to have to understand that. Three, I don't think I can do it by myself. I don't think, like, you out cutting ball strikes or strokes with the bat outside your house for, like, weeks on end is actually going to help you. I think you're going to need people around you to help, to provide encouragement, to see that they're doing it too, and to learn from them. And so, like, I think those things are applicable. If you wanted to pick up a habit of Bible reading, I mean, yes, you're going to have to figure out how to set aside time to do it consistently. I think going through the motions to start is fine. Like, if you're going to learn to run the bases fast, you're going to have to start by running the bases slow. And continuing to do it is what helps you get better at it. I don't even understand, to be honest with you, like, you people who play basketball or baseball or something, and, like, if you're not very good at shooting, what do they tell you to do to get better?
Shoot more.
Keep shooting. And, like, there's a magic in your brain where, like, it's not like you're consciously doing anything different. You're just, like, taking shots all over the place, and they just get better over time. Like, your brain fixes things in it. And so, like, I think there's a level of if we want, especially something that is you're supposed to do habitually, we have a false expectation that it's just going to like alter the world. Like, you're going to immediately understand everything. In fact, I've been reading Judges, and there were 2 chapters in the middle of Judges where, like, I've been doing a really good job kind of pay attention, digesting things, thinking about Scripture, and I lost 2 chapters in there. Just did not follow them. I know that I read them twice. And, like, it's just not sinking in. I don't know why I can't seem to follow what's going on in these 2 chapters. And it's frustrating because, like, I've read many a chapter. But anyway, long story short is that, like, I think you're going to need – so a trigger, you're going to have to commit to doing it. I think you're going to have to be gracious with yourself that you're not always going to be awesome at it, just like praying, just pray whatever you can pray. Borrow words from other people. It's okay to watch the baseball video and see another guy do it, and then say, okay, I'm going to try that. Borrow words from Jesus. Pray the things that Jesus is saying. Don't be upset if you don't feel the tinglers about having set aside prayer time. Like, it's not that you're saying, I prayed for 5 minutes and I'm satisfied. You're saying, in my current relationship, this is about as much as what I know to talk about. And it will get fuller and deeper the more that you're taking in other things, the more that you're interacting with God, the more the Spirit will drive what comes out of your mouth. You start saying stuff you wouldn't even realize was on your mind. But, like, I think that's the way you start. You got to start it, but, like, be okay with it getting better over time.
So let's stick with the prayer, because I think all those things are true. But I think we need more solid specific examples, right? So like you say, pray other people's words. Like what? Like how long? If someone was going to say, like, how long should I be praying?
I don't know. Pray the Lord's Prayer to start. There.
That's it.
Start there.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I would say, like, if you're not...
I don't know. What am I? I'm your pastor? Am I supposed to be helping you understand the ways of the Lord?
But, I mean, how long should I pray? Like, that's a bogus question.
Yeah, but people don't know that.
Yeah, okay.
Mister, I understand all cultures and have patience for other people.
Oh. I mean, I would assume if you're trying to do a spiritual discipline of prayer, maybe you did. You're right. Okay. So, yeah. like
I would have asked that question.
It doesn't matter how long. It doesn't matter how long. And I would say, like, if you even want to start shorter than that, you start with the Shema. Just do that. Do the, find different parts of Scripture, and you can pray that. Pray the blessing from number 6. Like, or even if you have some song lyrics, like things that you like worship songs that stick with you, pray that. Like, find a way to posture that in a way that it's a prayer, because there's a reason that those words are sticking with you. And so it's remember, when you're praying, it's not like you're creating magic with your words here. You're just saying, I'm giving dedicated time and acknowledgement of and petition of the God who made me in the world.
Yeah. So and then, like, I suppose as you go on, like, maybe add a couple of those things together, right?
Yeah.
Like pray the Shema and then sing a couple choruses of whatever your worship tune that's in your head, and then throw on, some prayers of that you're asking God to be involved in throughout the day or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, to help those conversations get started and go, and like get yourself a base, and then and the most important thing is like you have to keep doing it.
Yes.
You have to do it, and you have to do it consistently. And it's not because God's going to be disappointed in you. It's because you're missing out on time with your Father if you don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, just because habits are good habits doesn't mean that they're easy to do. I mean, you have to remind yourself that to exercise, sometimes you got to remind yourself, like, I'm supposed to brush my teeth. Like, there's just things where, like, you could totally do something else.
Nods in agreement. Yeah, that's a real booger.
But like, it doesn't indicate something bad about you that you have to remind yourself to do it. It doesn't mean you don't like it. It doesn't mean you don't agree that it's good. It's like you're a fallible human being. It's okay to have to put structures in. Actually, there's a book by a guy named Dallas Willard called The Spirit of the Disciplines. Also a great book. And he kind of talks about each of the different spiritual disciplines, and the value in things, and kind of along this lines, like things that you do to otherwise nurture those disciplines. And like, it's okay to say, look, I got to box myself in for good things. That's all right.
Yeah. Wasn't he super old when he wrote that book?
Yeah. He was.
Like, how old is super old?
I don't know, like in his 70s, I think. He's like just a dude who's, living a Christian life. And he's like, I'll write this book. And then it was like the premier spiritual disciplines book for a while.
It's good. Really? It's really good. Yeah. It's easy to read. He does a good job.
Okay, so spiritual discipline, walking into it. We're gonna. That's our advice on prayer for this week.
Yeah.
As if like you have not been working on the spiritual discipline of prayer. I would consider it, just as this is my personal opinion, like the biggest deficit, the biggest thing that is impeding the difference between what you know to be true in your head through sitting through church and reading your Bible and the way that you're feeling. I think your lack of spending time in prayer is a large source of that disconnect.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage you to fire that up this week if you're not already doing it. And like, our advice is just that. It's just, lines in the sand, beginning places to hold on to. If you feel like you want to journal as you pray, and that helps, do that, right? Do whatever, but do it, and do it consistently.
Yeah. Repetition has got a bad connotation in our society. It's not bad. The Jews wouldn't have had a problem with it. Like saying similar things over and over again. I don't get in a chant or a trance or try to call on your dead grandma to show up or something like that. It's weird.
Yeah,
but like it's okay to repeat things.
And also, like, just so this doesn't come up as a problem tomorrow morning when you have 1,000 other things to do. God gets your first and your best. So like, don't jam pack your schedule and be like, I got 5 minutes for Jesus today. That's your problem. You did that. You made every decision that allowed that to happen. God gets first and best. And so make room for it and make it healthy. Don't try to ask God to bless the 2 minutes you gave him, You know what I'm saying? Like, you give him whatever he asks for, and you give it wholeheartedly with a happy heart, with generous time, and like, don't be trying to squeeze God into your busy schedule. If you don't have any time for God, then you're choosing that. So move some things around. I'm just as guilty of this. Everybody gets up and believes themselves to be very important and have all these important things to do. And like, you had half hour for sure in your day for Jesus. And then you tried to be like, I'll pray on the car on the way to driving to the store. That's lame. That's big time lame. Don't be doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pray in the car too. But don't be calling that your alone time with Jesus, because you're also watching traffic, listening to the radio, and thinking about when you got to pick up your kids. So like, that's not good. That's not what we're after.
Yeah, and I would say along those lines, you have, even 5 minutes of just focused time. It's not like you have to have 10 hours here.
No, it's first and best.
It's intentionality. Yes, it's first and best in intentionality. And you'll be surprised. I mean, think of the same thing you would in your relationship with your spouse. How often do you look your spouse in the eye when you don't want something? Like, you're just talking to them and you're looking them in the face and you're having a conversation that isn't transactional about the things that are going on in the house. Hey, how are you doing today? Like, actually, I mean, Nathaniel's to be commended is to go home and ask his wife, hey, how am I doing with this thing? What a great thing to do.
Yeah.
What a great thing to do.
I was convicted after he said that.
Yeah. And so, like, it's the intentionality. Again, God's not going, well, if it's not 10 minutes, it's nothing. He'll drive it. You'll get a sense of what you can do or when you can do it, but like, it's the intentionality of it, it's the focus of it, even in small increments.
And the thing is like, I think if you give him the 10 and you do it consistently, you'll want the 15 just like he wants the 15. You'll start to want the 20 just like he wants the 20, right? Like, that will grow. That's how a relationship grows. It's just like when you first meet your spouse, when you're first dating, like, you exchange a couple 5-minute conversations, and then a month later you're talking for 3 hours listening to each other breathe on the phone.
Yeah.
And someone says, I'm going to go to the bathroom. They lay the phone down, and you're like an idiot sitting there on the other end of the phone waiting for them to come back. Right? Like, that's what we're after.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to leave this conversation. I want to stay in this. I want to know what's going on with the other person. That's what that will look like.
Yeah.
Okay. Spiritual discipline. Prayer time. You ready? Do you want to do advice?
Yeah.
We got to go.
Yeah, what do you want?
There. Live from the path. Oh, this is a good one. I'm a very successful 55-year-old married man. I love my wife, but I have a girlfriend I also love.
I see.
Both women feed my soul. Look, I hate that society tells me I'm wrong for having the two of them. I spend quality time with both. I make enough money to go on expensive, extended vacations. I love my life. These two ladies are the best thing that ever happened to me besides my 3 beautiful children. Why shouldn't I be able to enjoy both of them without feeling like I'm sneaking around all the time? I know there are going to be naysayers who respond, but most women will probably never be the only woman in a man's life. That's it. That's the question. Why can't I have these two ladies?
What a skewed view of the world.
Well, I mean, he pretty much nailed it. Hold on, let me see. The two ladies are the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm sure.
Yeah. You can just put a period and get rid of the rest of the article.
Yeah.
I got everything I want.
Just me.
Yeah. That'd be like saying, you know what's best for me? When I go to the store, don't pay for anything.
Yeah.
This is what's best for me. He basically just described, look, I get to do what I want. I get to take what I want when I want it. And I don't owe my full loyalty to anything. So, yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty sweet that you walk around.
He doesn't mention if his wife is enjoying this whole idea, if she even knows about it.
I don't even know that it crossed his buffoon mind.
Yeah.
Whether how she feels about it or not. I mean, he assumes, I guess.
Didn't he mention sneaking around?
Yeah, he is sneaking around.
He's sneaking.
Which means that she ain't going to like it.
Just tell her, hey, you're just one of many.
Yeah.
What was the phrase he said? I don't think most women need to realize that they won't be the sole focus of a man's life.
But most women will probably never be the only woman in a man's life.
Why not? Where is he getting that from?
And his swinging Bahama buddies, who all act like this, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if I have to answer the question plainly, what's wrong with it? Why can't I do this? You certainly can. You seem to be. But it is entirely selfish. You are using people. You're using your wife, and you're using this other lady, and just because they're not complaining about it doesn't mean they're not being used. and so
they also don't know about it.
I bet the girlfriend knows.
Oh, yeah.
The girlfriend probably
You
knows
would think
about
so.
the wife. Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
The wife doesn't know. So really what he's asking is, why do I have to hide this from my wife?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Yeah, Mr. Bold to the World wrote anonymously into the internet, as opposed to telling your wife. I mean, what does that say about you? Yeah, you're living a heck of a life. You're cowering in a corner, afraid of your wife.
Yeah.
Because you know it's wrong, you jackwagon.
Yeah.
Like, you were aware that this is a problem. That's why you're hiding it, and that's why you haven't told her yet. And so if you're saying, hey, why can't I do this? I mean, whatever this is has perpetuated your ability to be a coward. So let's start there. Your measure of a man is left wanting.
Yeah, the reason you can't do it is because your wife wouldn't agree to it. You wouldn't be married anymore. Right? That's the thing, is you already tell her if this would be fine. If the thing is like, as soon as your wife finds out that this is what's going on, that you're a wonton dude like this and causing this type of trouble, you're going to lose everything you ever had. Right?
Yep.
Like, you're living on a very, like, the most celebrated half inch of your life right now. Right? And like, you are walking on either one more step either direction, and you're done. And you're really happy with yourself. You're really proud that you're getting away with this and you're pulling it off and you make big money. And like, you just listed all the things that are eventually going to leave you with nothing. Right? Like, I'm sure that you're having some kind of physical relationship with both these people. You're 55 years old. This ain't going to last that much longer, friend. Right?
Yeah.
Your money's going to run out and not be able to buy you anything. And you're going to have no one to spend the money on or with, because you use them to the point that, like, they're not invested in you anymore. This is why God set up marriage the way that he did. It's like, you're basically setting yourself up for a one-time use and throwaway operation, and then and then you're going to be left on your own, and you're going to go, yeah, that's why people don't do this.
Yeah.
It's because you can take and take and take and take, and then, just like Roadhouse says, until someone takes you.
Yeah. Hey, man, this is the first Ghostbusters movie where, like, you get to the end and they say, choose your destructor. And you're like, 2 ladies, all the money I can handle, lots of rich vacations. And you choose, like, you think it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, something you love that is never going to cause you problems. And it is going to destroy you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a dummy.
And these 3 kids you claim to love more than the 2 of these ladies. Really? Like, you're willing to sacrifice the stability of their lives and, frankly, how they think of women. You think, here's the quiz question, answer honest, you think it would not devastate them when your wife finds out that this is what's going on?
Yeah. Would you love it when there's a dude doing this to one of your daughters?
Yeah.
Would you think, yeah, that's awesome? I don't know why he can't have both.
Right.
You wouldn't think that.
Yeah, and unless you think, now, here's the thing, if you thought, now you're in a real pickle, because if you thought that it would be all right and that your kids would be enriched by it, you would have told your wife already, and you wouldn't be acting like this. Like you done, like you're the most sexually active eunuch I've ever met. You got no stones in the game here. But if you know it's going to harm them, then you're being deceitful, and you know that, and you know it's a weakness of yours, and yet you continue to persist like a selfish bastard that you are.
Yeah, I can't believe we entertained this question.
Yeah.
Let's see what Secular says. Maybe she's a lot more nice to him. Dear, oh boy, Secular says, this may seem like a silly, unimportant detail, but how do your wife and your mistress feel about this arrangement? You mentioned that you feel like you are sneaking around. Why is that? Isn't your wife on board with it? And how about your mistress? Will she be satisfied with the status quo until she's a senior citizen, with the understanding that you will leave her a very rich old lady? It's not lost on me that nowhere in your letter have you asked for advice. I'm printing this because we all know there are married men in the upper income brackets who, like you, feel entitled to enjoy the attentions of more than one woman. But all of it demonstrates is that having money does not guarantee a person has character or class.
Wow.
Zing!
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Here we go. Last one.
Okay.
Dear Live, from the path. I was married for almost 20 years to a jealous, controlling man. Quotes Pete was emotionally abusive, which I didn't really notice because I'm not confrontational. What? I would just try to make him happy and ignore his controlling behavior. Toward the end of our marriage, I realized how isolated I had become. I'd pushed away most of my friends and family away. They didn't want to visit because of Pete's negative attitude. Our daughter developed an illness in her teens that requires 24-hour care. Her illness doesn't necessarily upset him. What did upset him is the attention she would require in the future. He would say things like, "She's ruining our retirement. I was looking forward to having you to myself and not having to deal with anyone." This is when I realized how controlling he was. It felt like I had been wearing a blindfold, and then I could finally see. I immediately filed for divorce. A year afterward, I started seeing an old friend I'll call Darren. someone my husband had often accused me of cheating with. He did that with any man I knew, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Darren. I can see a future with him. He treats my daughter great and doesn't mind that when we go out, she has to tag along. Pete is now saying that if I date Darren, it's proof that I cheated on him. I don't want my ex to think for a minute that our marriage ended because I cheated, because it's not true.
Yep.
So I broke up with Darren because I refused to accept him being labeled as the person who broke up my marriage. What would you do?
I mean, not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still
think
letting him control you.
Stop taking the advice of a controlling, jealous jerk face of an ex-husband, I guess. That's weird.
Yeah.
Showed him.
Yeah. Nathaniel, you take one more breath, that means you're cheating on me.
Yeah.
I knew it. That's the type of thing the guy, he draws a line in the sand that's arbitrary, makes no sense at all, and you go, oh no. And then you hold your breath in the corner until you pass out and die.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you eat banquet TV dinners because you're out all night having sex. Like, oh yeah, I got him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's dumb. That's a real mess you got on your hands, though.
I mean, you divorced him. You're divorced, right?
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the other part's kind of irrelevant. Like once you said this guy was a jackanapes, and then so we are no longer together.
Yeah, Pete is now saying that if I date Darren, it's proof I cheated on him. I don't know why Pete's saying anything.
Well, what does that even matter? I mean, if it's over,
Why are you
it's
picking up
already
the phone
passed.
when Pete calls?
Yeah.
Pete tried to get rid of your oldest child who has a 24-hour illness that I'm assuming you're taking care of now. And, yeah, I would stop answering the phone. I would probably take Pete out of my contact list and be like, blocked. I don't take messages from Pete anymore.
Yeah, right. Like I've never gone through it, I guess, but like I do. If you've divorced someone, like it's time to just be apart from them. Like there's no reason to like. Who goes through the really, really rough process of separating from someone to get some relief from whatever drama or dust-ups you were a part of, just to continue the drama and dust-ups afterward? Like,
Yeah.
for heaven's sakes, man, I hate that you chose this option, but like, if you're gonna choose the option, at least get the earthly value out of it by not continuing to like indulge in your divorce drama.
Yeah, I guess I can't figure out why you give two craps of a bird flock. Why? What Pete says to you? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
No, not at all.
Got nothing else. Nathaniel?
See you later, Pete.
Yeah, Pete's out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any reason to continue to interact with this man.
Mm-mm.
Like if he's otherwise abdicated responsibility for his kid and is otherwise a jerk, like just cut it off. He doesn't change your number. He doesn't need to know where you live. He doesn't need to know your phone number. You don't have to like block him. Do whatever you got to do. It's just not your problem anymore.
Her illness doesn't upset her. She requires 24-hour attention. He said she's ruining our retirement. You feel like you'd ever say that about your kid if they befell an illness?
I mean, I really hope not. Seems real selfish. I mean, now here's I'm gonna say this. I don't begrudge a man for thinking that. Like if you had like something happens to someone around you, I don't know that I begrudge someone that this thought occurred.
You don't say it out loud.
But you don't say it out loud.
It's probably okay to lament the fact that the opportunity of what your retirement could have been is now lost.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to mourn that. That like you had plans to sit on the beach with your woman doing nothing and you're like, well, I mean, dang, that would have been great. I think that's okay.
Yep.
And totally within rights. But like to look at your kid and go, she's ruining our retirement, as if she's a third party to the whole operation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's pretty bad. I don't know. That should have taken Pete off the list of people to listen to even when you were married.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying crap like that. You don't like Pete? I just don't listen to you. You don't make no sense.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what Secular says. Secular says, what would I do? I would once and for all quit allowing my ex to control me. I'd call Darren and talk with him about why I ended the relationship and ask if he would consider resuming it, where the two of us left off. If he was willing, I would move forward. However, if he isn't, I'd find a licensed psychotherapist who could give me the tools to avoid my ex's manipulations in the future. Boy, she's on fire tonight.
Give me the tools.
Yeah, the mental tools.
Oh.
The mental agility.
I was like, hit the block button. I'm sure there's instructions online for this type of thing.
Some people can't pull this off.
Yeah.
The fortitude.
Fortitude.
You think it's all right? Can you hand it if you can't do it personally, does it matter if you do it personally, or can you hand your phone and say, look, I can't seem to do this. I need you to block this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's okay to hand it off.
Yeah. As long as you block it.
I get a new phone number. He'll find a way around it.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is that like that always seems like it's not rash. It's just an address. Like it's just a phone. Just think of the freedom that comes from finding separation from some sort of joker that's harassing you.
Here's the thing: is all we're saying about Pete, and this is true about. Just keep this in mind about folks in your life. All you're doing is denying instant access to you. That's all you are doing. All you're saying is that, like, you don't get to instantly access me, right? You still know where I live. You can still write a letter. You know, there's 1,000 ways to communicate. All I'm saying is, like, as far as my phone is concerned, you don't get to call and interrupt me and tell me what to do. You don't get to text me crappy things. Those are just two things. And, like, Pete is going to be like, how dare you cut me off? No one cut you off, Pete. You're just going to have to drive over and knock on the door, and I'll decide whether I'm going to let you in based on your attitude today, right? And, like, that's just reasonable.
Yeah.
Those are completely reasonable terms to set. If someone can't behave themselves, then, yeah, you get to say you don't get instant access to me. My friends do. My family does. Emergencies do. This kind of behavior does not. And that's okay. That is a legit boundary. Don't feel guilty about it or terrible about it. So it's time to say, Pete, you're out of my phone. We're done with you. Yeah. You come over if you want to stop by and talk to me about something.
Yeah.
But you best be calm because Darren's going to be here.
Yeah.
He don't like the looks of you.
Yeah. All right. You've been listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Now would be a good time, if you have not rated the program, to give it 5 stars, 1 star, 2.5, whatever it is that gives you the tickle willies. And put that in your favorite podcast provider, just so we know that you're out there listening. If you want to leave a comment, that would be great too. I forget to check them. And so I have to go out every once in a while, and then I get mounds of delight to see that you're interacting with the program. So please do that. That would be fantastic. Also, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so via phone call or text message at the Live from the Path Bob Eisenhower complaint line. That's 515-517-0085, 515-517-0085. That's the complaint line, and you can use it for complaints. That's what we believe it would be used for. But if you have something jolly to say, you may do it on there as well. And, there's some things this week you could interact with. How does that, the description, the marriage stuff that we started out with, does that fit your life? Have you seen it play out, or are we dead wrong on there? We got the thing mixed up, and we're missing an opportunity to speak about it better. Also, any advice for people jumping in on spiritual disciplines, or maybe you're kind of motivated to try one out and hop in on some committed prayer life or Bible reading or something, and you just want to share that with somebody. We'd love to be praying about that with you. I know, frankly, I need accountability for that kind of thing. Not heavy. I beat you up, or someone else becomes the replacement for the Holy Spirit. But I mean, like, I just know that someone else cares whether I'm reading my Bible or not. And actually, we started this recently. I'm feeling pretty good by like 10 days or so in, and rocking a streak. So anyway, give that stuff a shot, and let us know if you got any thoughts, questions, or concerns for the program. We'd love to hear back from you. I believe, hey, just a heads up. We do have some guests coming in. It's been quite a while. The COVID took all the guests out, so we're going to start filling the seat up with some outside voices, and we're excited to bring those to you. In the meantime, be faithful in the mean. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.